The words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything. Time for every experience under heaven. Time for dancing and a time for wailing. Time for birthing and a time for dying. Time for speaking and a time for silence. Time for seeking and a time for losing. The time of mourning is a complicated one filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking Alvin's life with a 3,000-year-old tradition of the people of Israel and the eternity of God. Mizmor LeDavid Adonai Roi Lo Echsar Bino Tashi Arbitseni Al Mei Menuchot Yan Haleni Nafshi Yoshevev Yan Cheni V'Magale Tzedek Lema'an Shemo Gam Ki Alech Bagetz Al Mavid Lo Ira Ki Ata Imadi Shivtecham Shentecha Yemayna Chamuni Ta'aroch Lefanai Shochan Neged Sorai Deshante V'Shemen Roshi Kosi Ravaya Ach Tov V'Chesed Yerdefuni Kol Yemei Chayai V'Shafti V'Veit Adonai La'orach Yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight path for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Kirachem al v'banim, richam Adonai al yira'av. Ki hu yadai yitzreinu zachor ki afar anachnu. Enosh kechatzir yamav ketzitz hasadeh ken yatzitz. V'ruach v'avabo v'anenu v'lo yikra'enu od mekamo. V'chesed Adonai me'olam v'adolam al yira'av v'tzidkato livnei vanim. As a father has compassion for his children, Adonai has compassion for those who show reverence. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are dust. The days of mortals are like grass. We flourish as the flowers of the field. A wind passes over them and they are no more, and no one can recognize where they grew. But Adonai's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children, to all the reverent ones, endures age after age, unchanging. We are in the midst of the Jewish month of Elul. This is the last month on the Jewish calendar. We are, of course, now just a few weeks away from Rosh Hashanah, from the first day of the new Jewish year. And Jewishly, as we leave one year and come forward and look forward to another year, we are in the midst of a time of reflection. We reflect on the year that is coming to conclusion and look forward to the year that is to come. Thinking about what it is that we have taken with us from the year, what it is that we want to take with us in the year to come, and how we can improve the year to come. According to Jewish tradition, when we leave this world, it is like a ship that is leaving from a port, going out to a new place. As we say goodbye today to Alvin, we reflect on his life as he leaves this port of this world. going on a journey to the next. We reflect on the life that he lived so that we can carry his memories with us well into the future. I'm going to ask his 4 children to share with us at this moment words about their father.
My name is Shannon, and on behalf of our family, thank you for being here today to honor and remember our dad, Alvin. I am the oldest of his 4 children, although some would say Sean looks older. There's me, Sean, Tia, and Grant. Dad was also a proud grandfather to my daughter Leah, Nicole, Isaac, Isla, and Quinn. Our dad, Alvin Zipursky, was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba to Irvin and Lily Zipursky. He lived in north of Winnipeg with his sister Corinne, who passed away many years ago. He was raised in an Orthodox, kosher home, surrounded by family, tradition, and community. From a young age, Dad was a businessman at heart. He left school to start business and carried that entrepreneurial spirit throughout his life. In the late 1960s, after marrying my mom, he moved to Vancouver to begin a new chapter. If you ask anyone who knew him, the first thing they'll say about Dad was that he was a character. He had a way of making people feel welcome and could charm just about anyone. When I was young, Dad was always at the grill. It had to be Kingsford charcoal. I can still picture the bag. Steaks and high seasoning, fresh tomatoes with salt, and a Leafs game blaring in the background. My childhood vacations were almost always in Hawaii. Same hotel, same room, same lounge chairs, virgin chi-chis, and plastic cups filled with pineapple spears. Those were some of our happiest times. Later in life, Dad and I worked in the same building for many years. For a time, we even had offices on the same floor. He was a fixture at 475 West Georgia, always near the front door, cigarette in hand, chatting with anyone. Of course, life was not always sunshine and roses for Alvin or his family. But today we are not here to dwell on his past or his shortcomings. We want to share the man that we all came to know in different ways. In these last few years especially, we spent a lot of time with him, and what we discovered is that each of us knew a different side of Dad. He led us into a unique parts of himself, but what never changed was how much he loved all of us equally and that we loved him. This past year, I grew closer to him. Our times together in hospitals and at appointments was filled with lectures about my business. He always wanted more detail than I ever seemed to have. He'd say, "What? I can tell you the details of every suite, size, and feature of every building I ever owned." We talked about the stock market, football, and of course his Toronto Maple Leafs. My favorite topic, though, was what Dad called price checking. He hated that I didn't pay attention to the cost of things, coffee, banana bread, groceries. These prices and my lack of concern over it drove him crazy. This was the Dad I knew. My siblings will share their own memories, some different and some the same. I am grateful that Dad lived long enough to see all of his children succeed in life, in business, in marriage, and in raising our families. And I hope that brings him peace, knowing that we're all going to be okay. I loved him, and I will miss him more than I could say.
I really wish I had bigger font. As the youngest in the family, the baby as Dad would have always introduced me, I had a different experience than my older siblings. With, I believe it's 13 years, I gap between Shannon and I. Our upbringing was quite different. While I grew up hearing about stories of trips to Hawaii, my memories were of summers spent towing a trailer through the United States, building a different type of adventure. I still remember the first truck. Dad named it Peanut, because it looked tiny compared to the trailer we were pulling. It had a single bench where the three of us, my dad, my mom Laura, and myself, and a dog squeezed in. You may have met the dog. His name was Nicky, and he was a grumpy one. You didn't dare disturb him. You could lose a limb. The truck's name should have been a warning, though, because I'll never forget the moment we lost brakes going down the hill in the middle of nowhere, USA. It was terrifying. But Dad didn't waste time. He traded in Peanut, and suddenly we were riding in style in a crew cab, dual wheels, a flashy new paint job, and yeah, the trailer just didn't look the same. So he got a new one of that too. On those trips, Dad spent a lot of time on the phone making deals. He always had a deal going. But the adventures were unforgettable, even if we didn't get a pull-through spot, as Dad lacked the finesse of a seasoned trucker. Growing up, I didn't gravitate towards the typical family interests, hockey, mortgages, as they just weren't my thing. Maybe that's why Dad called me the quiet one. But honestly, anyone would be labeled the quiet one if they heard Dad yelling at the Leafs as on a losing streak. And I think that happened a lot. I'm very glad TVs don't work both ways. I leaned into my own path. Dad supported me in that. He bought me my first computer in 1995, and of course, he had a guy for that. He always had a guy. I remember getting Flight Simulator from Sean's work colleague, and Dad's guy loaded it up with Doom and other games that probably weren't age appropriate for a 12-year-old, but that moment sparked an interest in engineering for me, and I'd say thank you, Dad. In my 20s and 30s, Dad and I didn't talk too much, but he never missed a birthday call, and whenever we did reconnect, it felt like time hadn't passed, and we would talk for hours. Dad had a way with words, often blunt but always honest. He could strike up a conversation with anyone, anywhere. He once told me you need to be able to talk to everyone, from the CEO to the janitor. That advice stuck with me. It was one of his gifts, the ability to turn a stranger into a friend. I'm going to miss him. I wish we hadn't gone so long between some conversations, but I'm grateful for the moments we did share.
I was I should have been labeled the emotional one. I thought to myself, if I go off track or off script, it may make it easier and I can actually get through this. So most of you guys know that it was the day, exactly to the day that our mom passed away. Standing here to speak about my dad brings up a lot of emotions. Some complicated, some comforting, but all real. My relationship with my father always close, wasn't always close in the traditional sense. My parents separated when Shannon and I were young, and for most of my early life, there was some form of distance between us. He was always there in those times of need, but sometimes not like it would have been if my mom and dad stayed together. Life doesn't always play out like a storybook, and ours was no exception. Time is a way of changing people. As the years went on, so did we, growing older, growing in perspective, and thankfully growing closer, especially during my early years with Tracy and starting our family. We lived just around the corner from Alvin, Laura, Tia, and Grant, and would on many occasions experience the Alvin Zipursky barbecue and famous steak. Never lightly seasoned, barbecued in a cardboard barbecue. He helped both Tracy and I buy that home after we sold our condo for a loss, and we forever appreciated that. Grant spoke about the RV trips, and there was many a times that Tracy and I would jump in our car and go for a visit just to see him and the family. One of the things that brought us together in life was our shared love for finance, the language of numbers, the mortgage talk, the strategy, and risk. And oh boy, did he have a tolerance for risk, way more than me. It might sound dry to some, but for us, it was a connection point. We could talk shop for hours, sometimes passionately debating, other times laughing at the madness of it all, and how always he had a fix for a mortgage emergency in his own way. That shared path gave us common ground, sometimes something we both understood and respected in each other. Another thing that bonded us was hockey. Not a lot of watching it together. We didn't need to do that together to know our love of the game. Our conversations always ended or began with hockey. We never cheered on the same team, as he was an avid Maple Leafs fan and I a Canuck fan from day one. My favorite moment of hockey with my dad, very likely not his, was the 1994 conference final where the Canucks played the Maple Leafs. And yes, we did play in the same conference back in the day. Toronto was up 1-0 in the series, and the Canucks won the next 4 to move on to the Stanley Cup against the Rangers, and we lost in 7. I was never sure if my dad was actually rooting for the Canucks after they beat his beloved Leafs. Perhaps that would have been a good conversation to ask him in the later years. If you knew my dad, you know he was a storyteller. He had his way of launching into a memory, usually about some house, condo building, or something he bought a million years ago for what sounded like pocket change. And that amazed at how much it would cost today, whether it was a car, a house. He never got over how much cheaper things were back in those days. Those stories were just him. Recently, he started referencing us all as the spender, the lucky one, the strong one, and the quiet one. If you haven't guessed it, I was not labeled a spender in this family. But I was the lucky one. My dad labeled me that for a reason, that I was so lucky to have Tracy in my life. I 100% agree. He got the opportunity to drive back from Tia and Alan's wedding with Tracy, as I had to leave the night before for a business trip. And he brought that car drive conversation up many times over the years, and so did Tracy. Of course, different sides to the story. Tracy says, "Well, how can your dad talk?" And my dad, he just kept referencing me as the lucky after that car ride. And I would agree. Thanks, Dad. Even though we didn't have the picture-perfect relationship from the start, he showed up for me in the ways that mattered. Not always loudly, but consistently over the years. I will never forget the time we needed someone to look after Isaac and Nicole while Tracy and I were away. I was surprised to see him volunteer. That wasn't a thing for him, and I honestly don't think it ever was. Having said that, Zeta, as we refer to him, nailed it. Our kids went to their first swap meet, ate fast food and candy and garbage like never before. I think the kids even learned how to barter that weekend. Dad, thank you for the stories, the mortgage talk, the hockey conversation, and the second chances. I'm proud of the path we found together and will forever miss you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and showing support to our family and the love for Dad. I'm Tia. So Dad, Alvin, Zeta, however you knew him, he was someone that impacted our lives in different ways. For me, Dad came into my life at a very young age. And while we may not have shared the same blood, he loved me and raised me as his own. My relationship with my dad was unique and special. He always had my back while growing up and challenged me at the right times. The hours we spent at Rosini's drinking martinis, which then migrated over to coffee shops, were some of my favorite moments in life. I learned a lot about life from those talks, and I also found my love of coffee. As you all know, Dad loved his coffee. As you're aware, Dad was never afraid to share his opinions about how things should be. His passion for specific topics was incredible, and he did not like to be told he was wrong. He often told me, "Tia, you're a smart kid, but I don't think so." And then he would fact check me against my sister, which most times annoyed me, but also made me laugh. Dad was always a pretty good dresser. The countless amount of tracksuits and Adidas white sneakers he owned was astonishing. I swear he had shares in Didadora tracksuits. I don't think he ever forgave me or Shannon for tossing out boxes of shoes, belts, and ties when we first moved him into independent living. He brought it up many times, any chance he could. He really loved his clothes. I found it interesting that he thought I was the strong one. He must have been confused by my loud mouth and my ability to hold an argument for being so strong, because I definitely do not feel strong, but it makes my heart happy to know that's how he saw me. I'll never take a sip of coffee, eat a steak, or watch any game and not think of him. I'll miss you greatly, Dad.
The family has asked that if anyone would like to make a donation to a charity, to a tzedakah, in Alvin's memory, the BC Cancer Agency would be appreciated. Everyone is welcome back to 5050 Fenton Drive. This is where Sean lives, in Delta. I don't know if there's a Fenton Drive anywhere else, but make sure to go to the one in Delta. Please rise for the Amalei Rachamim. Amalei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamse Menachanat Chanfei Ashchina, Bimelo Kadeshim et Yomzoraki Amasirim et Nishmat, Avram ben Yitzchak v'Leah, Shalach le'olamo began edin te'menuchato, Anna barachamim asher v'sata kanfecha le'olamim, Utzra b'tzrayim et nishmato, Adonai hu nechalato v'anuch b'shel mashkbo v'nomar, Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest during your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of Avram ben Yitzchak Leah, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful one, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. I'm going to ask that the pallbearers step forward at this moment, to be followed by family, to be followed by the rest of us.